I found out about self-storage by accident. I'd owned and operated a dry cleaning business in the eastern suburbs of Sydney for 10 years and had been involved with establishing a manufacturing business, manufacturing pressure-sensitive adhesive tapes. And I just reached that stage where I wasn't enjoying the dry cleaning business, so decided to sell that and to travel overseas with the family for 6 months. And towards the end of that 6-month period, a Californian dry cleaning friend of mine was showing me through parts of northern California, and we drove past this building with orange roller doors, and I had no idea what it was and mentioned that to him, and he said, you don't know what self-storage is? And it was really starting to take off in America in the 70s. And so we drove into the centre, and in what seems to be typical of Americans, they opened the books and showed me how the business worked and that. And I returned to Sydney and purchased a parcel of land, and not being too certain about how it would develop, just, as I say, constructed that first building, and it filled up. And I remember when it rained and the customers got bogged, and they would push their vehicles out and they returned, and I thought, well, that's the best market research you can have. And so a second building was constructed, and a third and fourth and so on. And it just grew like topsy. As I say, with a traffic flow of only about 11,000 vehicles. And then we developed a site in Caringbah with much more exposure to traffic, and the results were encouraging, and we just continued to build on from there. Jim Miller contacted me, suggested that we have this meeting to establish an association. He'd organised that at his office in Ultimo. I remember that he had John Singleton as a guest speaker, and he and Barbara, who was his operations manager, did most of that initial work for the association. And I think as an industry we're very fortunate that we had Jim Miller as, in effect, the founder of the industry, because not only did he establish that association, he brought one of the valuers out from America who specialised in the self-storage industry to talk to the financiers, because there were difficulties at that time obtaining finance from the established banks. They were concerned about only a 1-month lease agreement, and there was no record of any success in the Australian market. And also Jim built some very good-looking storage centres, and his marketing was very strong, and the industry with that sort of a background got off on a very good foot. The early difficulties were sourcing finance from the established banks. They were concerned that the lease agreements were only for 1 month, and were concerned that all of the tenants may leave at the one time. But we argued that that was a better proposition than having one tenant and he leaves and it might take 6 months to find a replacement. So there was that question of finance. From a marketing standpoint, being involved with a new industry, we had to be on a site that was exposed to good traffic flows, and then we had to explain as simply as possible how the system worked, and we drew on what the Americans were then using, and that was that simple line of you store it, you lock it, and you keep the key, and minimum 1 month rents. We used the then yellow pages, and I recall 55% of our business came from the yellow pages, 45% came from traffic passing by. And the other question was how to price the storage. And I just worked on the basis of what I assumed somebody would be prepared to pay for half a garage or a garage. And by trial and error, that worked out very well. And in those times, if you compared the pricing we were achieving as a dollar rate per square metre, it was well in excess of what was being achieved for the rental of small industrial factories. That margin has contracted significantly, but nevertheless, we still enjoy rates better than industrial unit rentals. Renter Space has benefited from the Self-Storage Association membership through just the association of other operators. And I think we stand out from other industries in that we seem to be all quite relaxed about discussing how our business is going and how the industry is going. But I think that preparation of the standard self-storage agreement made an enormous difference. And then the procedures manual came in and supported that. And just, as I say, the grouping together of ideas has certainly helped Renter Space. One of the very strong features of the self-storage industry is that we share our knowledge. Various operators share our knowledge about the business and the industry. And this just isn't within the context of the Australian market. It's also when you travel to America or into the United Kingdom and so on. And we've been a beneficiary of that, and I'd like to think that we've also contributed to it.